Hey guys, what's good? T Gray here with another episode of Good Genes, Bad Guts. Today we are wrapping up my advanced Crohn's symptoms. A few weeks back, I began discussing with you my advanced symptoms because if you recall, I did my early symptoms and my advanced symptoms. This is part 2 of my advanced symptoms. And if you did not catch my first video on advanced symptoms, you can actually click the link right above and view them there. That being the case, let me dive right in. Sudden, intense joint pain. I'm not talking about an ache in this knee or a pain in this elbow or shoulder. What I'm speaking about is sudden, intense joint pain that precludes you from bending, squatting, kneeling without assistance. I literally could not bend, kneel, squat, do any of that without holding on to something and slowly lowering myself to whatever position I wanted to be in. So that's the first symptom, or that's the first symptom we're discussing today. Next, there are two, and they relate to the skin. First, snake skin. Now I know I've alluded to this in a previous video, but I really want to make sure you understand what I'm speaking about here, because everybody gets a little ashy here or there. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm speaking about is otherwise hydrated, firm, nourished skin suddenly becoming dry, loose, crepey, and full of striations, full of just lines, almost like a shedded snake skin. That's what I experienced. Had no idea what was going on. Dehydration of the skin in its most extreme form. Something else related to the skin that I experienced that is a symptom, that proved to be a symptom of Crohn's for me, bumpy patches. Now, everybody gets a rash here or there, but when I speak of bumpy patches, think of just sort of small pimples without a white head or a black head, and they come in patches, and the patch can be as large as the palm of your hand. Like for me, they were pretty large, and to the naked eye, you couldn't necessarily perceive it unless you were close, but I could feel them. Mine were always on the back of my thigh. I don't know why. That's sort of specific to the person. They always appeared on the back of my thighs, and I would feel them, but I didn't know what they were. They didn't itch. They didn't hurt. They weren't blisters. Just raised bumpy patches that may or may not be brownish or reddish from time to time. That was, as I later learned, due to the candida, which we'll discuss in future videos. That was one of my symptoms. So I actually had 2 skin symptoms. Malnutrition. I was clinically malnourished for over 2 years. What does that mean? That means blood volume. That means blood glucose. That means cholesterol, protein levels, blood pressure, hormones. They were all well below the floor or the baseline for someone my age, height, gender, and that registered as clinically malnourished. I was told this by my doctors. I believe that became sort of a very concerning point around December of 2015, because this had been going on since early 2014, and we were headed into 2016, and my body still wasn't absorbing nutrients. So I was clinically malnourished for, as I just stated, over 2 years. If your doctor, not anyone, sorry about that, if your doctor or clinician or trusted medical practitioner tells you you are clinically malnourished and you have one or more of the other symptoms that I've trotted out, you are a very likely candidate for Crohn's. This is specific to the ladies. If Auntie Flo stops flowing just out of the blue and you're regular, that's a symptom. I was very regular. My menstrual cycle came like clockwork. I could literally tell you it was going to start in the morning. And it did start in the morning on the 28th day. Then one day it just stopped and it never came back. I discussed it with my doctor and learned that even though I still was not properly diagnosed with Crohn's at that point, I learned that because I was clinically malnourished, when the body is in a state of malnutrition or extreme stress, it diverts nutrition, blood, whatever, away from the reproductive organs to the vital organs. Why? Because reproduction is a privilege. It's not a necessity or a right. However, this heartbeat, these lungs working, this liver purifying the blood, that's got to go down for me to keep breathing and talking and living. So, ladies, if you're regular, or even if you're irregular, and it just stops and never comes back, and you present with any of the other symptoms that I've mentioned, loss of your menses is absolutely a sign. It can absolutely be a sign of a symptom of Crohn's. The last two, hair loss. I saw it. I did not know what to do about it. I ignored it. Hair was coming out literally in handfuls. I could see my scalp more. Again, what do you do with that? Like, you don't feel well, you know you're not eating as much, okay, I'm losing hair too, whatever, I can't really worry about that. Well, I probably should have worried about it, and I should have said something to someone, because that's actually a sign of Crohn's as well, because it ties into the malnutrition. So along with my cycle going away, hair needs nutrients to remain in your scalp. I lost a lot of hair. In future videos, I'll share with you, because I'll talk about my hair, and I'll show you my hair sort of in its natural state, and even some of the products I use. But you'll see that because of Crohn's, I actually have two distinct layers in my hair now. Because it's growing, my full hair volume is about this length. But because I maintained a fair amount of hair, and I have a lot of hair, my hair is actually quite long. It's below my buttocks. But hair loss is a symptom. Last, if you get a false gastroparesis diagnosis, that's a red herring. Gastroparesis is known as, it's the technical name for stomach paralysis. That's when the stomach will not relax and allow its contents to pass through the pyloric sphincter into the small intestines. The pyloric sphincter is this little valve that opens and closes periodically to just allow food to pass in a very metered fashion from the stomach into the small intestines. So if you get a false diagnosis, and if the doctor says, oh, well, it may be this, gastroparesis, and the test comes back negative, that's a potential sign that you have Crohn's, because that happened to me. That's the last advanced symptom that I have, so I'll wrap right there. I thank you for bearing with me, because I know I've spent an inordinate amount of time on symptoms, but because I was misdiagnosed, symptoms are of particular import to me, because had someone given me these additional symptoms, then I'd like to believe I would have been able to find help sooner. That being the case, I'm going to conclude for the day. I just want to say thank you for joining me for another episode of Good Genes, Bad Guts. Please go follow me on Instagram if you don't already, at Living Beyond Crohn's. Please subscribe. If I haven't given you information that is pertinent or useful, I am certain that in the future I will have videos that have information that is beneficial for everyone, not just Crohn's or ulcerative colitis patients or people who suffer from autoimmune diseases. And last but not least, absolutely not least, hold on, keep pushing. I know you got this. We'll talk.